Good morning. It's Tom Padula from TomPadulaTV on YouTube and Insegna Booksellers. And of course, I am here once again. It's a Tuesday, and it's Tuesday the 27th of September 2022 with Italian lesson number 47. Podcast, whatever you want to call it, letteratura italiana, grammatica e pratica, and with a touch of Rome in it as well, because I think it's a good idea to go back to the Latin and really read a little bit and know a bit more about this ancient culture that has given us so much over the centuries. I couldn't help myself when I was considering letteratura italiana, that in fact there is a lot of history behind the letteratura. Letteratura comes from our daily existence as human beings, but also from the realities that all surrounds us, and from our own imagination as well, and our interpretation of the realities or the facts or the fiction, whatever comes. And how is this expressed? One of the best ways, of course, is just plain writing, telling the story, basically. But then there's also another way of doing it, poetry. There's, you can have sketches, you can have short stories, little novels, bigger ones, many ways. Letteratura then needs to be read out. So then the theatre comes in, and the giullari, the people who want to sing in the streets, and people who want to play an instrument and sing at the same time. There's a lot that comes from our own imagination and the extension of our own individuality through literature. It's an important activity, and one that makes us reflect, and it makes us realise that there are other worlds outside of our own bubble. Important. Some people like to live in their own bubble. They don't want to know about anything else. And it always amazes me that, to see certain people having very precise, definite ideas about a lot of things. And you can't really win, don't want to win against these people, because they know. And when they know, that's it. Follow me, I know the way. You cannot, dispute someone who's ideologically wired. It should make us reflect about a lot of things that happen around us. But in the end, there is no right way and no wrong way. Each one has his own way. And as I said on the bus, going to Adelaide and back, I mentioned the fact that sometimes I do it my way, as each person does his or her way. That's it. Now, this morning's lezione is lesson number 47. And I was happy to come back last night and being able to be here with you. Because I really do enjoy doing this work here. I did try it on the bus. I thought, would you like to listen to this? And then after a few minutes, I gave them the option. I said, look, if you're bored with what I do, please, please say so. So after a few minutes, somebody raised up a hand, stop. And I thought there was a whole group of them. But there wasn't. I was only one person. And at the end of that, it was, after I stopped it, and a few hours later, people said, well, you should have kept going. And I thought to myself, yes, I want to thank that person, because at the end of the day, we have to stick to what we know to be a good thing for others. And so some people will not accept our ideas straight away. It takes a while, but the idea is not to impose, it's really to inform, to give people the freedom of saying no as well. That's important. And the only thing I can say to people who, don't want to do the things that you do is that they should do the things that they do so that we can listen to them too. And then they can, karma will come to them in their circumstances. It's 11:30 and I'm going to start with letteratura italiana. And this time here, we're going quite back. Now we're talking about the 12th and the 13th century, okay? That's when Italian literature actually started in a bigger way. Better have a drink. Okay. Today we're going to read from Storia della letteratura italiana. It's Filosofia, Scienza e Poetica nel Medioevo. And the language is not easy, okay? But I will try to explain it as I go along. Sempre tra il secolo XI e il XIII, that's 1200 and 1400, 1300 is the 4th century. Dalla Francia di lingua d'oeil, the official one, the main one, accanto all'epica, si diffuse un'abbondante e svariata letteratura dottrinale. Oh, welcome to Curtis L. Tolman and Assunta Lombardi. What a surprise. Thank you very much for coming on. So, filosofia, scienza e poetica nel Medioevo. Sempre tra il secolo XI ed il secolo XIII, dalla Francia di lingua d'oeil, accanto all'epica si diffuse un'abbondante e svariata letteratura dottrinale. A doctrinal literature emerged initially. Prima di discorrere di esse è opportuno dare un'idea generale degli orientamenti culturali di quell'epoca. Before we got to them, we're going to look at the general activity, general orientations here, directions, cultural directions of that era. Quanto alla filosofia, l'attività speculativa non era rivolta alla ricerca della verità. So in philosophical terms, they weren't looking for truth. Far from it. Poiché questa era ritenuta ormai saldamente conquistata e fissata nei dogmi della Chiesa. And the truth was rested in the hands of the church. That's it. Whatever they said was the truth. Il problema centrale era quello di appurare la genuina interpretazione delle dottrine di Aristotele, il maestro di coloro che sanno. So Aristotle, being, from ancient Greece, was the person who was at the head of the people who knew, sort of thing. So how do they had an individual look at life. They didn't have a doctrinal literature. So how do you fit that into the religious one? Huh? Con la rivelazione, il problema centrale era quello di appurare la genuina interpretazione delle dottrine di Aristotele, il maestro di coloro che sanno, come lo chiama Dante, e di mettere d'accordo con la rivelazione cristiana. How do you bring it into play with the Christian revelations? In other words, the doctrinal literature. Se passiamo a considerare le scienze propriamente dette, le cose peggiorano ancora. So in terms of the sciences, things were even worse. Preclusa era a quelle menti l'osservazione obiettiva e metodica. They could not observe anything in a methodological, in a very precise way, like you would look at reality. No, that wasn't their way. So, preclusa era a quelle menti l'osservazione obiettiva e metodica dei fenomeni naturali, dei quali si escogitavano spiegazioni strambe e puerili. Non si possedevano pertanto delle cognizioni scientifiche, sia pure elementari, ma delle credenze favolose nate chissà come ed accolte con ingenuo rispetto da quanti avevano sete di conoscenza. So whoever wanted to know the truth about this, they accepted the explanations from the church people or the people who, you know, had the doctrinal sort of literature. They said, oh yeah, they must be right because they said so. But these people wanted to know more. But of course, were they satisfied? The question is, were they satisfied with those explanations? Yes, initially at least. Ma poiché ci stiamo occupando di storia della letteratura, importa soprattutto spiegare qual concezione nel Medioevo si avesse circa la natura e gli uffici della poesia, e invitiamo il lettore alla massima attenzione. So, because we're talking about literature, we want you to look at, you know, to pay attention to the development of poetical thought. Tutti oggi riteniamo che l'arte scaturisca dalla ispirazione. We believe today, in today's world, and I mention it often in my poetry, from inspiration. We get poetry from our inspiration. E che consiste nell'esprimere dei sentimenti per via di immagini. So we sort of express our sentiments via, you know, our images of reality, what we believe to be true. Noi non consideriamo più la forma come il semplice rivestimento variabile a piacere, so the form is not as important anymore, but it used to be number one. That's what this says. Di un contenuto che possa restare identico a se stesso malgrado le variazioni di quella. Abbiamo smesso di credere nella retorica. We've stopped believing in rhetorics. So how do you achieve what you want to say to others through a very flourishing language that's not necessarily based on reality but on perceptions and, you know, certain beliefs? Che con precetti desunti dagli eccellenti scrittori pretendeva di insegnarci in che modo potessimo più acconciamente ed elegantemente abbigliare questo o quel pensiero, questo o quell'affetto. Per noi il cosiddetto contenuto si estrinseca spontaneamente in una sua forma da cui non si potrebbe scindere senza vanificare l'opera d'arte. So this is the excellent writers of the past that followed rhetorics. They were very convincing in a way, but as I said, it wasn't the inspiration. They didn't get it from inspiration. They got it from the precepts, from the dogmas that the church, the revelations, if you like, had said we had received from Jesus Christ, from Evangeli, from the Gospels. Per noi il cosiddetto contenuto si estrinseca spontaneamente in una sua forma. So for us, content expresses itself in whatever form, a form that is quite personal. And, you know, si potrebbe scindere senza... So this art of writing in rhetorics is no longer there, but we have to still consider it, I think. È inoltre nostra convinzione che l'arte è autonoma, ossia è fine a se stessa e non ha l'ufficio di ammaestrare dilettando, come pensavano i teorici greco-romani. Miscere utile e dulci consigliava Orazio. Orazio, they thought that you should be teaching whilst also entertaining the public. And some people in our education system believe that just that, even today, which is a good thing, if you think about it, but you can't always achieve it. La cultura medievale, che come abbiamo detto, subordinava tutto lo scibile al dogma teologico e si rigidiva in sistemi tradizionali e statici, non era certo in grado di concepire l'arte se non come un complesso ben delimitato di precetti e regole e come un mezzo per diffondere le verità della fede e della scienza o per cavarsela brillantemente quando si presentasse il caso di comporre un'epistola o un'orazione ufficiale. So the masters at trying to convince people with whatever they said. This rhetoric, you know, as the study of the rhetorica, is still done today by religious people because they do need to captivate the people who go to the religious services. E queste concezioni non erano corrette ed avvivate da quella sensibilità artistica che invece avevano largamente posseduto gli scrittori e i poeti antichi. So, in the Middle Ages, they had actually gone backwards in the sense that when they were writing, they were subjected by these theological, ideological views, and they couldn't see, the wood for the tree sort of thing. That's the way it was. Whether you think that is a backward step, I don't know. I think we've gone more and more in modern times to the ancient ways of doing things. We're bypassing institutionalized anything. We think that they're all self-serving in the end. And the people in them, they have a personal reason for following such doctrine, such ideologies. So if you're working in Russia, for example, and you work for the state, etc., you're expected, and in China too, you're expected to follow the rules laid out by the laws of the dictator or of the theocrats, like in Iran, etc., etc. You get a lot of these examples in the modern world. The modern world is not all modern. It's a mix. It's still a mix. Tuttavia, poiché lo spirito non può mai essere in completa contraddizione con sé medesimo, l'istinto estetico guidava gli uomini del Medioevo ad accordare un'inconsapevole rivincita all'arte mediante l'allegoria. So through the allegories, in other words, saying one thing and meaning another, that's the way they overcame this faithful credence of faith and ideologies. So even though they're talking about the Madonna, this and that, but like the Cavalieri verso le dame, love that was not consumed, etc. Deep down they said, yeah, but they actually, when I say this, I really mean something else, and otherwise, the population wouldn't be there, would they? Would it? Here we go. So the allegory is important, and it's present in the works of Dante. Dante uses allegory a lot in his Divina Commedia. Le argomentazioni teologiche e filosofiche, le verità morali e scientifiche non erano sempre impartite in una ingegnosa e stentata versificazione, la quale si distingue dai trattati veri e propri soltanto per la misura delle parole, ma si mutavano in figure. Era una soluzione astratta e provvisoria, un espediente, ma tale da consentire all'arte una via di realizzazione. Un esempio, Dante sul principio della Divina Commedia ci presenta la superbia in figura di leone e la cupidigia in figura di lupa. Uno scambio che potrebbe apparire arbitrario e ingiustificato, ma Dante è poeta e quelle due fiere acquistano moto e vita concreti che fanno dimenticare al lettore la significazione allegorica di essa. So he was saying, this is what I saw, but it really means something else. And that was right at the beginning of the Inferno. Questi parea, this is when he was in front of the three beasts. Here it only mentioned two, but there's also the leopard. Questi parea che contro me venesse con la testa alta e con rabbiosa fame, sicché parea che la ne temesse, that superbia, pride. Ed una lupa che di tutte le brame scambiava carca nella sua magrezza. And that's, the lupa is so intent at wanting to be fed. In other words, it's like the priests who want money all the time. And I saw that the other day. I mean, you know, during a mass, they go around twice. Why? Only once would do. Just to encourage people to do once. That's enough. No, but you're going to go twice. You know, so you've got to make sure that you've got one coin for the first one coin for the second one, whoever they are. But, you know, these are the sort of things that come to mind in today's world. And they come from way back. Il velame allegorico è qui tanto bello che vale per se stesso, indipendentemente, anzi, malgrado il senso che vi si vuol celare sotto. So this is a beautiful way of expressing yourself with allegories. So the writer here, or the writers, believed that Dante was doing a good thing. Il velame allegorico è qui tanto... Quando alla prosa correvano le cosiddette artes dictandi, arti nel dettare, trattati di retorica che precisavano le norme da seguire nel comporre epistole ed orazioni. So in rhetorics you were told how to write letters and how to present orations, sermons. I quali trattati generali erano chiamati anche al pari di quelli consimili dedicati ad altre discipline. Summe si distinguevano 4 stili di prosa latina, lo stile tulliano, che si basava sui precetti e sull'esempio di Cicerone, con largo sfoggio di figure retoriche sia di parole che di pensiero. Lo stile isidoriano, così chiamato dai soliloquia di Isidoro, vescovo di Siviglia, vissuto tra il VI e VII secolo, e che consisteva nel collegare i membri del periodo mediante rime e assonanze e simmetrie, ingegnose ma estranee alla sostanza del discorso. Lo stile ilariano, che risalendo a un inno di Ilario, vescovo di Poitiers del IV secolo, primo compositore di inni latini ecclesiastici, formava i periodi con ritorni simmetrici di spondei e di accenti, e infine lo stile romano, che si diffuse ampiamente dalle cancellerie papali ed era basato sull'osservanza del cursus, ossia delle clausole ritmiche, per cui i membri del periodo e il periodo stesso si concludevano su determinate cadenze metriche. I didn't stop there because you needed to study these things. There were four ways of doing rhetorics in ancient times, and they're explained here and given a name by the people who were using them at the time, over a couple of centuries. Si trattava in ogni caso di sapersi esprimere in forma elegante, ornata. Precetti ed esempi miranti a tale scopo raccolsero parecchi letterati, fra i quali ricordiamo il bolognese Guido Faba, che nella prima metà del secolo XIII dettava norme di stile sulla summa dictaminis, mentre nei dictamina retorica offriva modelli di epistole non soltanto ufficiali e solenni, ma anche private e domestiche, e nella gemma purpurea mostrava come i precetti retorici si potessero estendere anche l'uso della lingua volgare. So this Guido Faba from Bologna, where there was the first university there, he actually wrote books relating to how to write, how to do an oration, how to write a letter, how to do this also with private correspondence, and also how it could be used in the vulgar language. Not bad. It's a good work. Guido Faba, I have to look him up. L'insegnamento comprendeva le 7 arti liberali, the 7 arts liberali, divise in 2 gruppi o gradi, divided in 2 groups. Il trivio, grammatica, cioè latino, dialettica, cioè logica e retorica. Latino, logica e retorica. It gives you a good base. E il quadrivio, aritmetica, musica, geometria e astronomia. That's the other one. C'era poi la filosofia, ripartita in scienze naturale, morale e divina o teologica. So they're divided into 3 lots there. Le 7 arti liberali. So that's where we're going to stop today. It's not a bad thing, this storia della letteratura. It's very good. The language is, it's flowery, and of course, you know, you'd have to study, I don't know what available books, but I'm not getting the interest that I was expecting from my lessons, because of course I talk too much. That's the nature of the beast. So if you stop me halfway or whatever, it's really, to do me justice, you'd have to listen to the whole hour and see how I develop each one of my podcasts or lessons. I don't get much feedback either, so that's the problem too. That's another problem. But it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I'm doing it for me, and hopefully one day when people realise that they can actually listen to my podcast lessons, which are being placed in YouTube and various other platforms, you'll actually be able to listen, you know, apart from the music, you can listen to something that can offer you something extra in terms of educational purposes in one's own life. And I said, you know, I'm just an example of what can be done. Believe you me, I enjoy the singing and the music, but sometimes you want a bit more. Yeah, let's go here. I was going to do a song, but I'll read you this filastrocca di Carnevale. Carnevale vecchio e pazzo, s'è venduto il materasso per comprare pane e vino, tarallucci e cotechino. E mangiando a crepapelle la montagna di frittelle, gli è cresciuto un gran pancione che somiglia ad un pallone. Beve e beve all'improvviso, gli diventa rosso il viso, poi gli scoppia anche la pancia mentre ancora mangia. Così muore Carnevale e gli fanno il funerale, dalla polvere era nato ed in polvere è tornato. This is Gabriele D'Annunzio. What a wonderful poem, Filastrocca di Gabriele D'Annunzio. That's one of the great writers of the 20th century. Yes, one of ours. Well, he was born in the 19th century, but, you know, he did a lot of his work in the 20th century. He was very much a poet during the fascist era. He had studied rhetoric, I can believe you me. Some of his books are real gems in that way. Okay, now there's another one here, and then I'll do a song. Le tre uova. This is the logic, you know, this is how you do logic, okay? Un giovane studente tornò a casa per una breve vacanza. Un giorno, per far vedere ai genitori quanto era furbo, fece loro uno scherzetto. Sulla tavola apparecchiata c'erano 2 uova sode. Egli ne prese una e domandò: quante uova ci sono nel piatto? 1, disse il padre. Lo studente mise nel piatto l'altro uovo e domandò: quante uova ci sono nel piatto? 2, rispose il padre. Allora disse lo studente: 2 ce ne sono ora, 1 c'era prima, e in tutto fanno 3. Dunque nel piatto ci sono 3 uova. Il padre pensò che suo figlio era proprio intelligente, like the people used to write in rhetorics. La madre invece, this is the, the person who knows, who looks at reality in a different way. La madre invece prese un uovo e lo mise nel piatto del marito. Prese l'altro e lo mise nel suo piatto e disse al suo figlio: il terzo mangialo tu. And that's when rhetorics get caught. People who are too smart for their own boots. Well, I saw that today, and I thought, well, I'll use it anyway. We'll see what happens. The other thing that I wanted to, of course, continue on doing is break up my presentations with a song. And this one here this is program 3, Choral Improviso 2020, which I will do with Dora and Reno eventually. La lontananza, I've done this before, by Domenico Modugno. Okay? And it's a good one, this one, because Domenico Modugno has a way of introducing poetry and just plain talking into the songs. Domenico Modugno is reputed to be the first cantautore italiano dei tempi moderni, from 1958, with Nel blu con volare. Yeah? La lontananza, this is another one. Should I show you? I think I will show you what one. You've seen me enough for today. Here we go. Oh, wrong one. Gee, when you don't do things for a while. Okay, 1 week away, and well, how many? Probably 1,000 kilometers later, here I am. La lontananza. Mi ricordo che il nostro discorso fu interrotto da una sirena che correva lontana, chissà dove. Io ebbi paura perché sempre, quando sento questo suono, penso a qualcosa di grave e non mi rendevo conto che per me e per te non poteva accadere nulla di più grave del nostro lasciarci. Allora, come ora, ci guardavamo. Avremmo voluto rimanere abbracciati ed invece con un sorriso ti ho accompagnato per la solita strada. Ti ho baciata come sempre, ti ho detto dolcemente. La lontananza, sai, è come il vento. Spegne i fuochi piccoli, ma accende quelli grandi, quelli grandi. La lontananza, sai, è come il vento che fa dimenticare chi non s'ama. È già passato un anno ed è un incendio che mi brucia l'anima. Io che credevo d'essere il più forte, mi sono illuso di dimenticare e invece sono qui a ricordare te. La lontananza, sai, è come il vento che fa dimenticare chi non s'ama. È già passato un anno ed è un incendio che brucia l'anima. Adesso che è passato tanto tempo, darei la vita per averti accanto, per rivederti almeno un solo istante, per dirti perdonami. Non ho capito niente del tuo bene ed ho gettato via inutilmente l'unica cosa vera della mia vita, l'amore tuo per me. Ciao amore, ciao, non piangere. Vedrai che tornerò, te lo prometto, ritornerò, te lo giuro amore, ritornerò. È già passato un anno ed è un incendio. Perché ti amo, ritornerò. Io che credevo essere il più forte, mi sono illuso di dimenticare, invece sono qui a ricordare te. invece sono qui a ricordare te. Beautiful song. Makes you appreciate that when you or I have left someone that you love dearly behind somewhere else, you don't realize just how much you miss them afterwards. And this la lontananza, what do we say about Australia? Distance, the what's the name? The thing of the distance. Can't remember. Unbelievable. Anyway, we'll go to the next one, which is Speak Parla Speak. And there was one to do with Natale. I'm going to skip that one for later. And I'm going to do today Buon Appetito. And when you say Buon Appetito, say grazie, altrettanto, you reply. Buon appetito, grazie, altrettanto. All right? Ti piace, ti piacciono. All right? Ti piace is you like, or ti piacciono, you like in the plural. Le patatine, I panini, I tramezzini, la minestra. See how many words you actually know of all this. La carne, il pollo, il pesce, l'insalata, gli hot dog, gli hamburger. The English comes in here. Le salsicce, la salsa, il pane tostato, pane e burro, il formaggio, la bistecca, le polpette, la tortina di carne, la crostata di frutta, la frutta secca, la verdura, la marmellata, i cracker, le crespelle, i ghiaccioli, il frappè, i cereali, il grano turco e soffiato, le bibite, le noccioline, le caramelle, i cioccolatini, il cibo in scatola. What did you notice? There was some English and Americanized words in there, and also French one as well. There you are, Italian. The more they can bring in, the better it is, because English does such a wonderful job of taking from all languages. So that's those are the words, okay? And as I said, I don't get many people wanting to do this. Look at this. I mean, honestly, if you want to learn Italian, what a better way to do it? Do you remember this? Do you remember the words for this? Look. Chips, how do you say chips? How do you say rolls, sandwiches, soup, meat, chicken, fish, salad, etc., etc.? Isn't it beautiful? I'm going to read you the other one. Hai fatto colazione? È ora del lunch o della seconda colazione, they call it. Prepara la tavola, sprepara la tavola. Facciamo merenda, fate uno spuntino. Vuoi sbucciare la frutta? Attenti alle bucce. Buttale nel vaso dei rifiuti. Cosa fate con gli avanzi? Dove sono le posate? Mancano i mantini o i tovaglioli. I mantini. Wow. Haven't heard that word before. Mancano i tovaglioli, yes. Prendi 2 lattine di limonata. Lattine, eh? Good one. Cans, lattine. Wow. Porta anche una cannuccia. Dov'è il cartone del latte? There are some adjectives. Questo cibo è ottimo. I'll show you the other ones first. Here they are, see? I'll tell you the meaning. And, you know, very important. Now I'm going to do this ones here. Questo cibo è ottimo, squisito, delizioso, buonissimo, saporito, insapore, dolce, amaro, aspro, acerbo, acido, cotto, crudo, duro, tenero, tiepido. I think, oh, there's more. Fresco, stantio, 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 style, never heard of that word. but now I know. Maturo, ripe. Acerbo, crudo, unripe. Welcome to Giuseppe Franca Friguglietti, welcome. Mi fa venire l'acquolina in bocca, ci manca sale, il salame è andato a male, questa frutta è marcia, metti i noccioli della frutta qui, i semi si possono mangiare, non essere ingordo, hai fatto una scorpacciata. So these ones here from Speak Parla Speak, here we are, these are the ones. Oh. Wrong one again. Here. These are the adjectives. As I said, they're very well set out. And so if you have this book here, you'll be able to really also revise your Italian, or you can play games with this, with children, or even between adults. Do you know this word? Do you know that word? Things like that. So you can turn this into games. Okay? Now, that was Speak Parla Speak, and we're doing well with time. Let me see what I've got now on. That was wonderful too. Okay. Now I want to go to the Latin. The Latin. Voglio fare un po' della lingua romana. This one here is. I'm just going to start with Ovid. He had the children. You remember that I said that the Romans, had a very extensive culture, especially nelle piscine. They were unbelievable, really and truly, so advanced. They played games. The gambling with them was knuckle bones with nuts, chess. They played all these games. And Ovid wrote a poem about it. Okay? Descriptions of game played by Roman children are preserved in the writings of ancient authors. They are often difficult for us to interpret, although they were probably perfectly clear to ancient readers who would have been familiar with the games and their rules. You've got to know the game. See if you can figure out. Ovid describes how they were played, some of these games, and these people give the Latin and English as well, but I'm just going to read the Latin and see how we go. Has puer aut certo rectas dilaminat ictu, aut pronas digito bisve semelve petit. Not many words there that I read, except certo. Certo, standing upright, something like that. Quattuor in nucibus non amplius alea tota est cum sibi suppositis additur una tribus. Per tabule crivum labi iubet alter et optat tangat ut e multis quellibet una suam. Est etiam par sit numerus qui dicat an impar ut divinatas auferat augur opes. Fit quoque decreta qualem celeste figuram sidus et in Grecis littera quarta gerit. Aec ubi distincta est gradibus que constitit intus quod tetigis virgas tot capit ipsa nuces. And the last one. Vas quoque sepe cavum spatio distante locatur in quod missa levi nux cadat una manu. The language, Latin, looks like it's very structured, and not bad at all, actually. There's one here, a little story called The Last Move in a Game of Chess. Julius Canus, after a long dispute with the Emperor Caligula, was ordered by the capricious emperor to be executed. Seneca, the moralist, praises the bravery of Canus under sentence of death. Here This was written by Seneca. Will you believe that Canus spent the 10 intervening days before his execution in no anxiety of any sort? What the man said, what he did, how tranquil he was, passes all credence. Can't believe it. He was playing chess when the centurion, who was dragging off a whole company of victims to death, ordered that he also be summoned. Having been called, he counted the pawns and said to his partner, "See that after my death you do not claim falsely that you won." Then nodding to the centurion, he said, "You will bear witness that I am one pawn ahead." And then he went to death, very happy. You like that, huh? Before I go to the early Roman Empire, I'll do another song. I don't know what I've eaten this morning, but I need a lot of drink. This is called Torna Piccina. I've done this before, and I think it's a beautiful song, really. And the problem is with this that I've had in the past is that this bit here. Nella mia vita triste e senza amore, tutto svanisce e nulla mi sorride più. Ho una speranza ancora in fondo al cuore, questa speranza mia sei solo tu. Normally, I've read it because I didn't know how to approach it, you know, with the singing part of that. This part here is il ritornello, which is easy, okay? So, but Torna Piccina, I'll get the whole lot. Nella mia vita triste e senza amore, tutto svanisce e nulla mi sorride più. Ho una speranza ancora in fondo al cuore, questa speranza mia sei solo tu. Torna piccina mia, torna dal tuo papà, egli ti aspetta sempre con ansietà. Fra le sue braccia, amore, egli ti stringerà, la ninna nanna ancora ti canterà. Sei tutta la mia vita, tutto tu sei per me. Certo sarà finita se resta senza te, mio bene. Torna piccina mia, torna che il tuo papà, la ninna nanna ancora ti canterà. Quando fa notte e brillano le stelle, penso a chi sogna un mondo di felicità. Ma la mia stella bella, fra le belle, chissà se un giorno ancora brillerà. Torna piccina mia, torna dal tuo papà, egli ti aspetta sempre con ansietà. Fra le sue braccia, amore, egli ti stringerà, la ninna nanna ancora ti canterà. Sei tutta la mia vita, tutto tu sei per me. Certo sarà finita se resto senza te, mio bene. Torna piccina mia, torna che il tuo papà, la ninna nanna ancora ti canterà. Torna piccina mia, torna che il tuo papà, la ninna nanna ancora ti canterà. the way to approach that song is the way I've just done it. If you can't, the high notes. This one, the the singers with a big voice. Nella mia vita triste senza amore. Something like that. You've got a really powerful voices. That was for Torna Piccina. Great with a band, with an orchestra. To do Torna Piccina with an orchestra, and then the public sings it. Con I cori all'improvviso. I like that this word here that I've coined for my for my activities there at Il Carretto one of these days, and at the Federazione Lucana on the last Sunday of each month. But yesterday was Monday. Sunday I was in Adelaide, so I couldn't do my lesson, but I will do it next Sunday instead of the last Sunday. This will be the first Sunday and only Sunday, the first one. So on the 5th, I think it's the 5th of October, I'll be at Federazione Lucana, and if anyone can make it, it'll be good. I'll go there anyway, even though, well, to make up for the one that we missed out on the 25th of September. So there we are. Now, this is the early Roman Empire. I always talked about Augustus, but I didn't know really a lot about Augustus because he was quite an emperor. So this is the early Roman Empire. Augustus died at the age of 76. Not bad for a Roman, huh? 76. He had been in wars, he fought with his sword, etc. He survived it all, a tough guy. In AD 14 years after the birth of Christ. So Christ was born in the reign of Augustus. And let's not forget, Augustus and Caesar added, Julius Caesar, the month of July, because there were only 10 months before, came from Julius Caesar. And Augustus comes from Augustus. And let's not forget, then there's a new era that begins with the birth of Christ, 14 years before, which makes it year one of Jesus Christ being born. And that's where we get our modern calendar from. Okay, so Augustus was born, he was 76, so minus 14, what does that make it? 76, 14, 62. So he was born in 62 before Christ. And his uncle, Caesar, was murdered in 44 BC. So Augustus was 18 years old, would have affected him greatly. And he was a bit of a fighter, and then he ended up, when Gracchus, etc., they fought for about 10 years, and then Augustus had a win in the early 30s. So he then was undisputed leader of Rome, even though the Senate still, they still met, but he was, whatever Augustus wanted, he could get. Welcome to Angela Emila. So Augustus died at the age of 76 in AD 14, and the month named for him in 27 BC. At the time of his death, the mood in Rome was one of contentment. He was a successful emperor. The frontiers of the empire were secure. The state bureaucracy was operating well. They could collect the taxes because people made money. The equites were satisfied with the expansion of trade and new careers that were open to them in political and military service. So the upper class, if you like. And the urban population was happy to have enough food and entertainment. Churches, panem and churches, in other words, food, bread and entertainment. That was the name of the game for the politicians of the time. That's why the Colosseum was built. Don't forget, we had the Christians to burn and to crucify, and lions to eat people up, and people having such a good time seeing this absolute slaughter in the Colosseum. And that was done under this wonderful Emperor Augustus. But not so bad, I assume, under his reign, but the one after him, when Nero came after him, we'll see what happens. Augustus had also left behind a strong national consciousness of the strength and glorious achievements of the Roman Empire, a possession that the Aeneid and other works of literature had helped to create. So when people write about modern times, I wrote a poem about Melbourne, 2 poems in fact, actually 3 poems I've written about Melbourne. The first one was when it said, you know, because in the 70s you couldn't have people, coffee tables on the streets in the path. You just couldn't have them outside, just in case the blind people were walking along and would trip. It's incredible. But now, you know, they're everywhere, so we don't worry about it. So that's the early empire. Now let's have a look. For almost half a century, the Roman world had been ruled by a single master who had held all real authority in his own hands, despite the trappings of republican government. Only an extraordinary individual could maintain that kind of control. A bit like Queen Elizabeth. Inevitably, upon his death, trouble was bound to come. Will trouble come under King Charles? We'll see what happens. What made matters even worse was that Augustus intended the office of emperor to be hereditary. Well, that's what happens with Queen Elizabeth. Unfortunately, he had failed to produce a son of his own, but she did. She produced a few of them, whom he could have manoeuvred into a position to be accepted as emperor after his death. He didn't have anyone. You've got to have children in order to pass on your name, etc. Therefore, Augustus had to use the children and grandchildren of his sister Octavia. She had plenty of children. His daughter Julia and Augustus, the children and grandchildren of his sister Octavia, his daughter Julia, and his wife's first husband, T. Claudius Nero, as substitutes. Even though Augustus had a daughter, she couldn't it had to be male. A male had to be emperor. He couldn't have a woman. That is why the dynasty of emperors who ruled the first century of the Roman Empire is called the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Because of Augustus' maneuvering to produce an heir from his own family, many different people could claim a right to succeed to Augustus' principate. Therefore, family intrigue and murder were prominent in the history of this dynasty. Beautiful, huh? I might read a little bit more, okay? The Julio-Claudian dynasty. The personal lives of the Julio-Claudian dynasty inspired much scandal and malicious rumour that were gleefully reported by ancient writers, such as the biographer Suetonius. Much of it has been dramatised in modern novels and films, such as Robert Graves' I, Claudius and Claudius the God. Even after the falsehoods have been eliminated, the truth still sometimes sounds like a soap opera. All right, that's enough. I'll sing a song. I think that's better for me. All right. Where are we? September? Are we in September? We are still in September. This song is by Peppino Gagliardi, and it's called Settembre. Settembre, but this is September in Italy. Very different from the Settembre here. Okay, I'm going to show you the words. Here we go. But I have to read it, so I can't be too close. Fra qualche giorno finirà l'estate e sulla spiaggia niente resterà, le ore passate saranno un ricordo che noi porteremo lontano, io e te. L'estate se ne andrà insieme al sole, l'amore se n'è andato già con lei. Le prime gocce baciano la sabbia e stanno già bagnando gli occhi miei. Settembre poi verrà, ma senza sole, e forse un altro amore nascerà. Settembre poi verrà, ma non ti troverà, e piangeranno solo gli occhi miei. Settembre poi verrà, ma non ti troverà, e piangeranno solo gli occhi miei, e piangeranno solo gli occhi miei, e piangeranno solo gli occhi miei. Of course, Peppino Gagliardi does a very good job, and then because the song is short, the music plays a very big part in it. Now, I could do the other three, but I think I will leave them for next time, and I'll continue with our friends here from the Roman Empire, and I might read you a little story as well, a little story from, I'll read you, this is Provincia Romana, okay? This is the Roman provinces, you know, we're talking about Rome being an empire, okay? So this is, you should be able to understand this. Gallia, that's France, erat omnis divisa in partes tres, unam incolebant Belga, aliam Aquitani. So the Belgians were called also Aquitains. And there's an Aquitaine as a province of France today, near Belgium. Tertiam Celte, the Celts, was number three. Fortissimi inter omnes erant Belga, they were strong. Quod occultu atque humanitate provinciae nostre aberant. Non solum Caesaris milites provinciam occupabant, sed etiam magna incolerum multitudo in prospera terra transalpina vivebat. Prasertim apud Rodani fruminis ripas ac isare druenti eque. So I think I understand this, you know, sort of after the Alps, you know, there was a lot of rivers, good rivers and good land, etc. And you're talking about, you know, the land near Belgium, Aquitaine, and the Caesar's people were given plots of land because they'd fought there. You know, when you conquered another nation, the soldiers who had fought in them were given portions of land to cultivate for themselves and to bring the Roman Empire and Roman Empire laws into the lands, the occupied lands. Makes sense. Multi naute ad Gallicum sinum navigabant, ubi opulentus Massilie portus erat, liberi ac crebi erant mercatorum commeatus, agricole multos exquisitosque fructus ex agris educabant. Du provincie colonia Romanorum fuit, odie Franco Galli Provenza appellant. So this, now we're talking about what you call the Marseille. They were building ships, etc. Had good fruit. They had good agricultural products, and they called it province. It was a province of Rome, Provenza, Franco Galli. the Frankish and Gallius, the original French. Isn't that beautiful? There are also some little stories here in Italian. Ok, le maschere degli attori. Let me read that one. Gli antichi attori coprivano il volto con maschere. La maschera era tragica, cioè truce e spaventevole nella tragedia, oppure comica, ridente e buffa nella commedia. Different masks for the tragedy and the comedy. Così simulavano i moti dell'anima e ingrandivano il suono della voce. The masks also enlarged the voice. For some reason they were able to pull out a stronger voice. Nell'anfiteatro anche gli spettatori lontani udivano le parole degli attori. So these masks were used like microphones that could produce, that's a good one. Because in the amphitheaters, the actors, people could hear the actors even from very far away, right at the top. Una volta, narra Fedro, avendo una volpe visto una maschera da tragedia, esclamò: è veramente bella, ma non ha cervello. A fox said, seeing the mask, said, it's a beautiful mask, but it hasn't got any brains. Of course, the brains were given by the actors. You like that? Qua ci vorrebbe un'altra canzone. No, it's number 3. Well, just the last one. Tra due litiganti. Un pescatore trascinava un suo socio davanti al giudice. Durante la pesca nelle acque del porto avevano preso soltanto un'ostrica. È mia, diceva l'una. Mia, invece, rispondeva l'altro. Allora il giudice, con placido passo e con volto severo, si accostò ai litiganti, aperse le valve del frutto marino, mangiò la polpa, quasi mercede del suo giudizio, e lasciò i gusci ai pescatori, uno ciascuno. You like that, huh? That's a good one. Wow. I'm going to try that next time. Okay, well, that's it for today. We have reached the end of this lesson. I've enjoyed it. I've done something different because apart from, the Italian literature, I want to keep on going with grammatica, pratica, etc. The grammatica, I keep it under control, but occasionally I will come to it in these lessons, but the main focus is la letteratura. And the history, this is the history of literature. So these are the difficult areas and exclamations of the early part of Italian literature from the Roman times. We'll get to the 1200s with Dante, which I'm doing anyway, but then there's Francesco Petrarca, Boccaccio, and then we'll go on. Once we get there, you got to be patient. Everything about me is got to be patient. There's enough time in a day to do all this. Okay, ciao, ciao. Now I'm going to finish, and this will go on to Tom Padula on Facebook. Okay. Ciao, arrivederci da Tom Padula from TomPadulaTV on YouTube, and of course, Insegna Booksellers. Until next time.